black sky and a little pinpoints of lights, well, it's going to turn up its exposure so much that that colored light is going to look white because it's going to be way overblown. And so you may have seen people on the internet, they tell you to take your videos at just before the sun sets. And the reason is because you still got some light in the sky, and your camera can balance the light with what it sees in the sky and your light the Christmas lights. And so you get a better video of your lights. Well, a better way to do it is on your camera, you have a gain setting. And that gain will allow you to increase or decrease the exposure that your camera is automatically setting. And so what I usually do is change that gain to +1 to +2. And what will happen is, -1 to -2. And what it does, it lowers the exposure and allows your lights to be more natural, and you'll actually see the colors. What I've got up here on the screen is a picture of how not to take the video. Of course, you don't want to handhold it. This one's handheld. On the far left, the lights are blurry because of it. But there's green lights, red lights in here, and because the exposure is trying to compensate for all the black there, you get white lights because all the lights are overexposed. So if you use a -1 or -2 on your gain, you don't care about brightening up the darkness. You're trying to capture the lights themselves. So by lowering the gain, you're going to bring the color out on your lights, and it won't be overblown like this. And the other thing you want to do is have a tripod. Do not try to hand hold it. And what you do with the tripod, I like to take 3 or 4 different positions. So I'll take my tripod, set it up, film an entire show, one entire run from that position. Then come over to another position, set up your tripod, film the entire show from that position. Then what you can do is, like, I have flames that I like to highlight. So I'll then set up my camera so all I'm seeing is that one effect, and film the entire show. And then there's, say, the cosmic color ribbon. I've got a star, and I like to accent it. I'll then set up the camera so that all I'm seeing is just that star, and I'll film the entire show. Because your show is synchronized, you can do this, and every position you've taken from will be exactly synced with your show. And so when you get through editing it, it'll look like you have 3 or 4 cameras going at one time. And the other good thing about it is, sure enough, when you're filming, you're going to have a car to drive by. And it's like, oh my God. Well, by having multi-cameras, when that car comes by and has messed up that video, you switch to another position when the car wasn't there. So now you've just edited out that car and you don't have the messed up shot anymore. So by taking multiple positions, you're just like they're doing on TV now. They're shooting with multiple cameras, and you can switch between where you want to according to what the music's doing. Or if there's like I had a neighbor pulling into his driveway, and here comes lights all the way across the display. Don't worry about it. You've got other shots that you're going to fill into there. So what you do is, I don't know if you can see it, but in the editing program, up here I've got the video that I import. And here I mark where this sequence begins, and I mark where it ends at, and then I drag it down here to my timeline for that one sequence. So for that song, and also by doing this, I might have 6 or 8 songs on here. So I've highlighted just that one song, brought it down here to my timeline. So when I play it on this screen, all I'll see is what I just highlighted. So I've just edited out all the other songs. I'm working on this one song, which happens to be Hot Chocolate. So I'll do that for each of my camera shots. Then you bring them all the cameras, all the sequences I just made, I drop them into this timeline. And also when you do record your audio. but not to be shown in your final video, but you need that audio for cues later, so that there's markers I put here that denotes something, whether it's something in the song, by the audio, or there might be an effect, where I can tell by each of my 4 shots. Like what I happen to be using on this one is my flames are popping up, and also my star is red. So what I did was I came across this timeline to this first sequence and found where my flames were just coming up. So I put a marker there. Then I went to my next video, found the same thing, it's taken from a different angle, just as that flame was coming up, I put a marker, and I did that. And then there was one that's facing the star. Well, I couldn't really see the flames, but I know at the same time the flame's coming up, my star turned red. So I then made a marker on it when my star turned red. Then all you do is you line up these markers so they're in a straight line. Now all 4 of my videos are in sync. So I can then move across my line here, find where I want to, which video I want to use. I can cut out all these pieces and then move it. If I want to change camera, I then cut off what piece I don't want that sequence. And so when you get done, you get a segmented video with a whole bunch of segments. This is the first part you see, then the next one is a different camera, this is a different camera, different camera. And so you get all these little cuts where it's different camera shots that you're switching. Now the software I'm using is Adobe, and it has an actual function in it that I can put all these 4 sequences in it, bring up another window, and as it plays, I can select which video I want to, like a director would in a studio would. But generally, your software you get won't have that capability, so you've got to do it manually. And it's time consuming, but you get that changing with the music, you get the shots, the car that comes by, you cut it out, and use the next video, and you cut the pieces out like you want. Let's see here. This is, I hope it's going to show up good. This is how I took it with the exposure down 1 or 2 settings. And you see how I've got, you can see my greens and you can see my blues. Reds, you'll see a highlight with reds, but your blues are real hard to capture because they're so close to being white. And so this is how my video would normally look. Then you can go in with your software and you can turn up the saturation. By that, you can make it less saturation is like a washed out picture. More saturation, you're pumping in more color, more reds and blues and greens will become more vivid. And I hope this shows.
You can play it? I want to check that audio.
I don't have any video.
Oh, there's no audio on it?
No.
Oh, okay.
But I do at the end where I can play the, yeah, we can do it, because I play the
I'll just leave this here, just on the laptop, and set it up, set the audio at anywhere between 5 and 8.
I think it's back here on the side, isn't it?
And here's the headphones.
That's it?
Yeah. Okay. Now this next picture, I've gone in and changed and increased the saturation. And I'll go back and forth so you can see the difference. So here it's kind of, it has a, if you can see it on the screen, it has kind of a milky look to it, and the color is just not quite as bright. And here, so like you can see the reds there, they're turning up. So this is how it normally would be. Then I turn up saturation. You can see the red lights in front of there in the center. Then it get a little more brighter. So that's what saturation does. It'll bring out that color more. You have less of that washed out look. So that's one of the main things you want to do when you're doing your editing is somewhere in the, it'd be like to adjust your picture, or different software calls it different things, but you'll increase that color saturation. And if you did it with people, you might make their faces too orange or too reddish, but here we don't care because we're just messing with three primary colors, mainly. This is the flames as it's shot with the camera, and I haven't done anything to it. The flames are overly bright compared to the rest of my lights. You can hardly see the lights to the far right there. But then when I get through with the color saturation, I bring out the orange and the flames. I've got a vignette around it. A vignette is a darkening of the shot so that the farther out from the center it gets darker, and what happens is it draws your eyes to the center of the picture. And I'll go back. So this is it without it. You can see around the corners, you can see a little bit of a stuffed animal there, and you can see the lights over here, but when I do the vignette, you're now focused on that other stuff. Now you're focused on just the fire. So that's one of the things you can do with adding a vignette. Then, when you get done, this is when you add your music. You've made your sequence with all your cuts and all like you wanted. Now, because your music that you use for your lights is exactly to the same timing as your video, because they're synchronized. So now all you do is you'll find a mark in your video where that drum beat or the chime or something like that hits, make a mark, find that place on your music, you line the two up, and you play it, and you got very good music because you're not capturing it out in your yard. So you got a high quality audio, and audio is a major component to your video. You can have a great looking video, but that sounds terrible. It's not going to fly. And then at this time, at the very front of it, I've added a title, which is hot chocolate. And so this is when you would do that type of addition to it.
What's the software now?
Adobe Premiere.
Premiere.
It's part of Adobe has a suite. It's called Adobe Creative Suite CS6. And unless you're doing it serious about it, it's too expensive to buy. You got to be. It's my other addiction.
But Adobe Premiere by itself isn't so bad, is it?
Well, they make a version called Elements, and in Elements you can get Photoshop and you can get Premiere. And what it is the consumer version that'll have a lot of these features built into it. And you can get it at Best Buy, and I think if you get both of them, it's like $120 or something like that. I would recommend getting Photoshop with it because sure enough, you're taking still pictures, and Photoshop really helps you on your still photographs also for your family and everything. So you might as well buy them together.
I've got the Master Suite version 3, and that's got everything in it, even the flash and you name it, all the components. Just got this, forced with this new laptop at IBM. It's Windows 7.
Yeah.
But version 3 only installs on Windows XP. Do you happen to know if either Adobe does some kind of a trade-in deal?
I would try it. They have an upgrade. You go to it. Each year, like I went from 5.5 to 6 for Premium Pro, and it was like $400 just for that one. So you're that far back, you're going to probably be.
The problem is this Master Suite was almost $2,000.
Yeah.
And
that was greatly discounted.
Yeah, and that was a big discount. It was like 2,800 retailers. So now I would only like to have just a couple of apps. I don't know if they just wanted if there's a market on eBay or something to sell the license and use it.
I would try installing it because Windows 7 does allow you to install 32-bit programs.
Yeah, there's an XP emulator other than Windows 7.
Yeah.
Does it pick it up automatically, or
I don't know.
Think so.
I don't have enough experience with it.
But it's worth a try. What's the worst thing to do is uninstall it. I mean,
I didn't want to close things up.
I don't think you'll lose anything up. Because when In 7, you'll see 2 program files. One will be program files, and then the other one says program files x86, and that's your older software.
Older stuff, yeah. Right.
So I think you can just install it.
I know one thing that Adobe came out with, I just looked it up online, it's called their Creative Cloud. It's a month-to-month offering.
Yeah.
For $75, you basically have access to every